Welcome back to Soap Opera September, where this series is bad, but I'm still doing it anyway. Alright, so today's soap opera... I got no words for today's soap opera. It's a doctor soap opera. But this soap opera... it didn't last that long, but it still lasted, fairly long. Today's soap opera we're talking about is called The Doctors. Now, this is not to be confused with the other soap opera called Doctors from the 2000s. I don't know why you would get those confused, because Doctors is a British soap opera about doctors, and this, The Doctors, is an American soap opera about doctors. I want to mention so badly when this show came out, but I want to save it for when we talk about the other stuff. Just know that it ended on December 31st, 1982, although it did come out in 1963. You do the math on how long it lasted. It was also produced by Toothpaste.
Can't forget the flying eggplants. Man, 1910 times were scary!
I don't want to make this a long intro, so I say we get things started. Today's video, I already said it, but it's about The Doctors. It was a soap opera. Alright, let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. This show came out on April 1st, 1963.
Oh no.
Yeah, that probably should have been a red flag, but surprisingly it wasn't, so let's keep going. Using an anthology format with different characters in each story, this was in contrast to all of the other daytime dramas on air at the time. The viewership numbers were not really encouraging. However, in that first season, the show pulled only a 3.4 rating, next to worst among network TV soaps. Beginning on March 2nd of 1964, however, Doctors became a traditional continuing serial, more than doubling the ratings to 7.5 mark. Jock Gaynor. Did his parents hate him? I'm just genuinely asking. No, really, I'm asking this question. I'm serious. Look, everyone else's names are normal except for Jock Gaynor. In the program's early years, the show was considered to be more bold in storyline choices than its primary rival at the time, which was General Hospital, which also coincidentally premiered on the same day, which I know General Hospital did that. I know General Hospital came out on April Fool's Day. However, General Hospital is still running, and this show isn't. Therefore, I'm okay with it. While the doctors on General Hospital worked in harmony with one another for the most part, and in some cases were intimate friends, the physicians on the doctors were shown in stories that balanced personal and professional concerns. Some doctors were depicted as competitive and cutthroat. The Doctors incorporated humor and realism into its storylines and remained anchored to actual medical work in its setting. So what are they trying to say? That General Hospital doesn't do that? Well, I've never seen General Hospital, so who am I to judge? An example of this is when Matt Powers was on trial for murder. He was forced to rescind his chief of staff's position. His successor schemed to remove his allies, like Dr. Aletha Davis, from positions of influence in the hospital. Aletha's stories included her challenges as a female doctor, working on with a mainly male staff, and one storyline outlined how her divorce was discussed by the board as a moral issue in a way that no male doctor's personal lives had ever been even discussed. Not bad, man. Pretty good. In 1972 to 74, the serial received Daytime Emmy Award for Best Drama. During that period, until a new opening sequence was created in 1977, announcer Mel Brandt, B-R-A-N-D-T, who was also known for announcing the animated Laramie Peacock coloring opening in the, 60s and 70s, would inform the audience at the beginning of each episode, and now The Doctors, the Emmy Award-winning program dedicated to the Brotherhood of Healing. The iconic theme song Patterns, which was updated in a new version in 1977 and 79, stayed with the program through August 1st of 1980, and was composed by in-house musician Bob Israel at Score Productions. It debuted with the episode, which aired on May 24th, 1971. The episodes of the show were originally taped in black and white at Studio 3B, one of NBC's production studios at 30 Rockefeller Center in New York City. And it was also the last NBC daytime serial to transition from black and white to color on October 17th, 1966. Mind you, Monkeys came out a year later and they weren't good. Can you imagine if the Monkeys wasn't in color? Now, granted, some of their commercials from back then, like not the restored ones, like the ones that like before restoration, look really weird in color. And some of them have like a weird, I don't know how to describe it, but there's this one commercial they did with Mike in a parachute, and the colors in that one, there's something else. It's the same thing with that one commercial where Peter's like knocked out and they have to heal him with like Kellogg's cereal. I should just play the ads because no one's going to understand what I'm saying. But then again, no one ever understands what I'm saying. I think this is just an excuse to play the monkey ads.
Some guys never will. Yardley, Black Label, Yardley, he's able.
It's the whole scene when you splash on Yardley Black Label, the new aftershave that's really out of sight. Be the guy who's got it all. Black Label, get it.
The Monkees, brought to you by
Yardley, makers of Black Label. Some guys have it, some guys never will. Be the guy who's got it with Yardley Black Label.
Okay, editing Amy here for the next commercial. I was gonna put the one where they pretend that they're using surgery on Peter when it's just cereal, but that coloring for that one actually is normal. So I'm gonna instead play the one where Peter eats cereal at night and they arrest him because, yep, that's normal in the monkey universe. I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. Why'd you do it?
I just dig Kellogg's Rice Krispies with those crisp morsels that go snap, crackle, and pop. And
Quiet. Where were you at 10 p.m., December 3rd, 1956?
I was at the Central High basketball game with Shirley.
All right. Relieve him of his Rice Krispies and take him to the cooler.
What for?
For some milk. I want to hear the snap, crackle, and pop.
The Monkees, brought to you by Kellogg's.
K-E-double-L-O double good. Kellogg's best to you.
From the late 60s until the mid-70s, The Doctors ranked as one of the top 5 daytime dramas in the United States. It peaked at 4th place in the 1973 to 74 TV season, behind As the World Turns and, of course, Days of Our Lives in Another World. We already talked about Days of Our Lives in Another World. I miss Luke and Noah, by the way, and Days of Our Lives is next episode. Yippee! Yippee! However, within a period of 3 years, The Doctors plummeted from 4th to 11th in the ratings. The decline in ratings was partially attributed to 2 serials with which The Doctors shared its time slot, One Life to Live and Gilding Light, which expanded to an hour in consecutive years. Gilding Light made this move in 1977, while One Life to Live, along with fellow ABC soap General Hospital, expanded in 1978. As the 1978 to 79 season began, the entire NBC soap opera lineup was suffering in ratings. While The Doctors was not alone in this, the network began a series of relocations involving the veteran serial that year, which would amplify the series' ratings trouble and eventually lead to its demise. The first move was done to help boost the ratings of Another World, which after tying for the top spot in the daytime serial ratings in 1978, had dropped to 8th place in 1979. In an unprecedented and since unrepeated move, NBC decided to extend Another World and make it the first serial to run for 90 minutes daily. The Doctors, as part of the schedule, a shuffle that ensued, was moved to 2 o'clock/1 p.m. Well, it says 1 p, but I'm pretty sure I meant to say 1 p.m. You know how things are. And since they'd done this, it was placed against the second half of As the World Turns on CBS, and the first half of One Life to Live on ABC. The ratings declined slightly, but NBC was not done. You see, Procter & Gamble Productions, the producers of Another World, began development on a new serial in 1980 that would evolve into a spin-off of that serial set in Houston. The new program was called Texas, and was picked up by NBC, who envisioned it as a daytime version of probably the most popular soap opera besides General Hospital, Gilding Light, Days of Our Lives, Dallas, which was supposed to be a video, but we didn't get to it yet because we're almost done with September. NBC needed to free up 1 hour of its schedule for Texas, and did so by cutting the runtimes of Another World, which reverted to its previous 60-minute slot, and the David Letterman show by 30 minutes each. Now, when I first saw that, by the way, I was thinking of the other David Letterman show, because I didn't realize that this David Letterman show didn't really last that long. But anyways, launching on August 4th of 1980, Texas was placed at the 3 o'clock, 2 o'clock p.m. hour, with Another World moving to 2 o'clock to 1 o'clock to serve as its lead-in. The Doctors was once again displaced as a result of the move, being shifted to the only open slot on the network's lineup. The 12:30 to 11:30 slot, the 12 p.m. to 11 a.m. slot, following Card Sharks, which, side note, that is a game show. And we'd be here all day if I yapped about how many game shows I've come across since doing this series, so let's move on. The noon hour would often see affiliates of the three major networks opt not to air their offerings for at least part of, if not all of, the time slot, and usually air a local newscast or some other programming, and the Doctors disappeared from some markets when it made the move. In addition, the 12:30 time slot was a competitive one for the three of the networks. ABC's competition came from Ryan's Hope, which had been beating the Doctors by nearly a full ratings point in the overall rankings. The serial's competition on CBS originally consisted of the long-running Search for Tomorrow, which was also pulling in significantly higher ratings than the Doctors had been. In June of 1981, my mom wasn't born in June, but whatever, CBS moved The Young and the Restless to 12:30, and the ratings faded even further. The Doctors fell to a 3.8 rating at the end of the 1980-81 season, which was tied for last place with Texas. NBC had not completed its reshuffling of the daytime lineup, though, and the Procter & Gamble serial was again at the forefront of the latest shift. In addition to the aforementioned Other World and Texas, Procter & Gamble was the production company for Search for Tomorrow. Wait, PGP? I guess it stands for Procter & Gamble. Reading is hard. Anyway, PGP was the production company for Search for Tomorrow. When The Young and the Restless moved, it took over the time slot that had been home to Search for Tomorrow since 1951. Its premiere in 1951. PGP was not willing to renew its contract with CBS to continue carrying the serial unless the network was willing to move it back to its original time. As things stood, Search for Tomorrow was airing at 2:30 to 1:30, which placed it against the second half of its fellow PGP production, Another World. NBC, however, was willing to do what CBS would not, and began negotiating with PCP to move the long-running serial to its daytime lineup. NBC agreed to return Search to 12:30 to 11:30, which it did upon moving the network on March 29th of 1982. And once again, this required a shuffling of the schedule. On the day Search for Tomorrow switched from CBS to NBC one final time, change was made for the Doctors to 30 minutes earlier, now starting at noon, a time slot that had been occupied by another game show called Password Plus, which was canceled to make room for Search for Tomorrow. We kind of got a Gunsmoke situation here because they had to cancel Gilligan's Island to keep Gunsmoke on the air. But you would know that if you watched my video about it. Anyways, both moves did not help matters, as NBC's serial lineup as a whole had been struggling for some time. The Doctors continued to be the lowest rated of the group, and the move to noon exacerbated the issue. The only serial ahead of it in the ratings was its new stablemate, which saw viewership drop by half after its move from CBS. NBC tried to remedy the situation by canceling two more of its game shows, Battlestars and Blockbusters, and using that 60 minutes to relocate Texas, which had not found an audience, to 11 o'clock to 10 o'clock a.m. on April 26, 1982, so that could serve as a lead-in for the two veteran serials airing in the noon hour. The move, well, it just didn't really work, as all three serials finished with low ratings, and the Doctors saw its ratings cut even more, eventually falling below a 2.1. NBC announced the cancellation of the Doctors, along with that of Texas, during the fall of 1982, and the last episode aired on December 31st, 1982. The show once again finished in last place as part of the still struggling NBC daytime lineup, which failed to see one of its serials finish in the top 5 in the final Nielsen's for a 5th consecutive season. The ratings ratings for the Doctors bottomed out at 1.6, less than half of what they were the year before, and nearly 1/4 of what they were 3 years earlier. The final number broke a record set by the short-lived ABC soap The Best of Everything, which pulled a 1.8 rating at the conclusion of its only season in 1970. Only Sunset Beach and Passions, 2 later NBC serials, finished the season with a lower final rating. Side note, because I don't want to make a video about it, but The Best of Everything was, of course, a soap opera on ABC, and it was a spin-off of the novel The Best of Everything and the film of the same name. The novel came out in 1958, and the movie came out in 1959. I just figured you want to know that. Anyways, 90 minutes freed up by the cancellations of The Doctors in Texas were filled by game shows beginning the following Monday. The Doctors saw its place taken by Just Men, which I have never heard. I'm telling you, I've never heard of any of these game shows, but apparently Just Men was a game show starring Betty White. I might have to make a video about this. Anyways, that show was canceled after 13 weeks, so I'm still making a video about it. But the noon time slot would not receive a stable show until Super Password premiered in September of 1984, which ran until March of 1989. Now, I mentioned Passwords already, so you don't need to know, but basically Passwords Plus was the original show, and Passwords Plus was, well, a game show, you know, and it was a revival of another game show called Passwords. Maybe I should make a video about passwords. Alright, now we're on to the last part of the video. It's the reruns, and I want to wrap this up really quick because Jay Aubrey just released a new video, and I highly recommend you watch it. Just came out. I am, 3 minutes into it, so, let's finish this. In July of 2014, Retro TV announced that it would begin broadcasting reruns of The Doctors in the latter half of the year, starting with episodes from December of 1967. On September 29th of 2014, the network began airing 2 episodes of The Doctors each weekday, starting at 12 p.m. Eastern Time and 11 a.m. Central Time. Retro TV had started off their reruns of the show in September 2014 with the episode which originally aired on December 4th of 1967, and stopped its run of all episodes with December 31st, 1979 on April, that episode on April 23rd of 2020, at which point syndication on Retro TV restarted with the December 4th, 1967 episode on April 27th. Episodes from December of 1967 to September of 1980 are available to watch on demand for free at Retro TV's It's Real Good TV site. The October 1980 to December of 1982 episodes were not provided to them and may no longer exist because NBC erased and reused the tapes holding them, so I would say lost media, but it's gone. It doesn't count as lost media. The Doctors has been distributed by SFM Entertainment, which has 865 episodes available for syndication, but only 290 episodes short of the entire run. As of July of 2018, Retro was running the series 7 days a week, but from 3 different periods of time, with Monday through Friday with 1 time frame, and then Saturday and Sunday each with 2 additional respective time frames in the series.